You look hungry, sweetheart. Would you like to share my sandwich? I always pack too much anyway, and food tastes better when you eat it with a friend. 26-year-old Clover Ashton knelt beside the small girl in the wheelchair sitting alone at the park, watching other children play on swings and slides she couldn't reach. The child, maybe 4 years old, with sad eyes that held too much loneliness, looked up at the stranger with surprise and wariness, clearly unused to people approaching her with genuine kindness rather than pity or discomfort. My name's Clover. What's yours? Meadow, the little girl whispered. And I am hungry. My nanny forgot to pack my snack again, but Daddy says I shouldn't bother people because I'm different. The word different landed like a stone in Clover's chest. She sat cross-legged on the grass beside Meadow's wheelchair, opening her small lunch bag, the carefully portioned meal she'd brought for her long day of painting portraits in the park, trying to sell enough art to cover next week's rent. You're not different in any way that matters, Clover said gently, breaking her sandwich in half. You're just a little girl who deserves snacks and friends and people who don't forget about her. Here, this half is yours, and I have apple slices and crackers we can share too. What Clover didn't know, what the expensive wheelchair and designer clothes should have indicated but her kind heart was too focused on the lonely child to notice, was that Meadow was the daughter of 33-year-old Quillen Merriweather, billionaire tech entrepreneur. He'd been watching from his car 50 yards away, his heart breaking as his daughter sat alone while a rotating cast of inadequate nannies failed to provide the maternal care she desperately needed since her mother abandoned them both 18 months ago. He'd been about to go to Meadow when this young woman, dressed in paint-stained jeans and a worn jacket, clearly struggling herself, had stopped and offered not just food but genuine companionship. Quillen watched them talk and laugh, watched his daughter's face light up in ways it hadn't since her mother left, watched this stranger treat Meadow like any other child rather than the poor wheelchair girl most people saw. For 45 minutes Clover sat with Meadow, sharing her lunch, drawing pictures together, telling stories that made the little girl giggle. She didn't check her phone or seem impatient. She didn't perform kindness, she just was kind, naturally and completely, giving her time and attention as if she had nothing more important to do than make one lonely child feel valued. You're really nice, Meadow said as her nanny finally appeared, apologizing half-heartedly for losing track of time. Can you be my friend? Real friends, not just today? I'd love that, Clover said, writing her phone number on a scrap of paper. Tell your daddy he can call me anytime you want to hang out. I'm at this park most days painting, and I'd love company. What Clover didn't mention, what pride kept hidden, was that she was barely surviving. Her art wasn't selling, her studio apartment's rent was overdue, she'd been eating one meal daily to stretch her food budget, and the sandwich she shared was meant to last her the entire day. But watching Meadow's joy at having a friend mattered more than her own hunger. That evening, Quillen stood outside Clover's apartment building, holding the piece of paper with her phone number, wrestling with complex emotions. He'd researched her, Clover Ashton, struggling artist, no social media presence, no obvious agenda. She genuinely helped his daughter out of pure kindness, shared food she clearly couldn't afford to share, given time that could have been spent earning money she desperately needed. When Clover answered her door, confusion crossed her face seeing this well-dressed stranger. Can I help you? I'm Quillen Merriweather, Meadow's father. I was at the park today. I saw what you did for my daughter.
Clover's expression shifted to concern. Is she okay? Did I do something wrong? I just thought she looked lonely. You did everything right, Quillen interrupted, his voice thick with emotion. You treated her like she mattered. You shared your lunch, your only meal, I suspect, with a child you'd never met. You gave her 45 minutes of genuine attention and friendship when most people won't make eye contact because her wheelchair makes them uncomfortable. You have no idea what that meant. She's a sweet little girl who deserves kindness, Clover said simply. Anyone would have done the same. But they don't, Quillen said quietly. I watch people avoid her constantly. I watch nannies I pay generously treat her like an inconvenience. I watch the world see her disability before they see her. You saw her first, the child, not the chair. What Quillen didn't immediately explain, what came out gradually as he stood in her doorway, was the depth of his desperation. Meadow's mother had left because she couldn't handle having a disabled child, because the accident that paralyzed Meadow had destroyed the perfect family image she'd wanted. Quillen had been raising Meadow alone, working obsessively to provide materially while failing to provide emotionally, cycling through nannies who cared more about paychecks than his daughter's heart. I have a proposition, Quillen said carefully. Not charity, a job offer. Meadow needs someone who genuinely cares for her, who sees her as a child rather than a responsibility. Would you consider being her companion, spending time with her, providing the friendship and care she's been missing? I'd pay you well, more than fairly, enough to pursue your art without worrying about rent or food. Clover hesitated, uncomfortable with the wealth disparity. I didn't help her to get anything from you. I don't want you to feel obligated. I don't feel obligated, Quillen interrupted gently. I feel grateful, and I'm offering this because my daughter came home today happier than she's been in 18 months. She talked about her friend Clover nonstop. She asked when she could see you again. She smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since her mother left. That's not something money can buy, but it is something I'd pay anything to preserve. What Clover learned over the following weeks, as she spent time with Meadow, as their friendship deepened, was that this child had been starved not for material things, but for genuine affection. The expensive toys and adaptive equipment meant nothing compared to someone sitting on the grass beside her wheelchair, sharing sandwiches and stories, treating her disability as incidental rather than defining. And what Quillen learned, watching them together, was that Clover's kindness in the park wasn't performance or isolated incident. It was simply who she was. She helped Meadow with patience and creativity, teaching her to paint despite limited mobility, reading stories with theatrical voices, creating adventures that made physical limitations irrelevant. She treated Meadow with the maternal warmth the child had been missing, never pitying or patronizing, just loving. But what surprised Quillen most was that Clover also challenged him. You're so busy providing for her materially that you're forgetting to provide emotionally. She doesn't need another expensive toy. She needs her father to sit with her at bedtime, to ask about her day, to be present even when work is demanding. Wealth can't replace presence. The gentle criticism should have offended him. Instead, it cracked something open, the recognition that he'd been hiding in work the same way his ex-wife had hidden in denial, both of them failing Meadow in different ways.
6 months after that park encounter, Meadow's life had transformed. She had genuine friendship with Clover, regular engagement with her father who'd restructured his schedule to prioritize presence, and most importantly, she had internalized that her wheelchair didn't make her less deserving of love and attention. And Clover's life had transformed too, not just financially, though Quillen's generous compensation had stabilized her, but emotionally. She'd found purpose beyond her art, discovered that caring for others could be as fulfilling as creating, learned that accepting help wasn't weakness when offered from genuine gratitude rather than pity. One evening, watching Clover help Meadow paint a sunset, Quillen said quietly, "That day in the park, you shared your only meal with a stranger's child. You had every reason to keep it for yourself. You were hungry, struggling, had your own survival to worry about, but you chose to see her need as more important than your own comfort. That single choice changed 3 lives." "I just did what felt right," Clover replied, her eyes on Meadow's delighted face as she mixed colors. She looked lonely and hungry. I had food and time. It seemed simple. "That's what makes it profound," said Quillen. "You had so little, yet you gave freely. You didn't calculate return or expect reward. You just saw a child who needed kindness and provided it. That kind of pure compassion, it's the rarest thing I've ever witnessed. It saved my daughter from loneliness and saved me from becoming so consumed by work that I forgot how to actually be her father." Because true kindness doesn't measure what we can afford to give. It simply responds when someone needs us, shares our last sandwich, offers our limited time, treats strangers' children with the same care we'd hope someone would show ours. We never know when sharing a lunch in a park might transform multiple lives, proving that the greatest gifts aren't given from abundance, but from choosing to lighten someone else's burden, even when we're carrying our own. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.